Hey everybody, it's Eddie J on Crypto. Hope you're having a great day. So it's Sunday. Time to just kind of brief recap and what's looking forward. So what did we have? We had America's oldest bank get into the crypto space. That's BNY Mellon. We had the English economy, the UK, almost keel over. We've had a ton of announcements and things like that, but what we have not had is a major macro event either end or a new one happen, right? So no real catalyst has happened to move the market. So right now the market's a little bit lower than where, it was a week ago, but only a hair. Right? So XRP is down a little, Cardano is down a little, they're all down a little. But if you look at this, as I look at it, as my kids look at it, to me, it's a buying opportunity, right? Even if I said, I don't think that XRP is going to move more than 5 cents, or any one of the cryptos out there is going to move, greater than 10%. Take a step back and understand what you're thinking, right? It's here's a number now. Take Cardano, 36 cents, I believe. It was trading above 40 cents. What happens if it moves above 40 cents? I don't know. That's a greater than 10% gain, is it not? It's a 4-cent gain on 36 cents. 10% would be 3.6 cents, which would put it at 39, give or take, but still a 4-cent move for Cardano just to get back to 40 cents is a 10% move. So I would be paying attention to that. I am paying attention to that. So where we might have invested when the market was high, looking at where you can get bounces from where the market is now is something that I'm actually paying attention to. Like I said before, I have wallets that I hold on to where when I put something in those wallets, it's going to be there for a while. And I have wallets that I can play with, that I know that, yep, I can go in here, I can play with it. It doesn't mean that I play all the time. It just means that this over here is meant to be played with. Means I can buy into something and say, well, I think it's going to move, 5%, 10%. That's all I have to think about. I have to be able to do my own research and come to a conclusion where I don't think it's going to go further down, and I think it's going to go up in a short term. Do I think any kind of upward swing at this moment is going to sustain? I'm not convinced of that yet. I'm really not convinced of that yet. Right? So I think that everything is going to move sideways. And if you're moving sideways, everything just kind of goes like this. So I'm looking for any kind of news that would drive ongoing upward momentum. One of the coins that you should be paying attention to do research on is Polygon. And the reason why, just look at how Polygon moves. Right? Just look at how it moves and how steadily it moves and how stealthily it moves. That's what me and my kids are getting into and digging into right now. And, my big boy has us looking into real estate. Not to do something right now, but to do something later. Poised for potential is what we call it. So those are things that I'm paying attention to. What kind of trending am I seeing in the short term, mid term, long term, and what do I think my chances are on capitalizing on each one of those things, right? Now, something that I heard that I keep hearing on a freaking Friday or Saturday in some of these talking heads. I'm a talking head, so that's not meant as an insult. Some of these YouTubers are talking about, Friday was a fake out. It's not a fake out. Okay, stock market normally sells on Fridays. You normally see a little dip on Fridays, or at least I have. So it's not a fake out. It's, yeah, market could go up. And then people start profit taking. It's not a dip, it's profit taking. So fake out, wrong term. Really, really, really the wrong term, right? If you're really paying attention to what's going on and how the market is moving, and you're not paying attention to people trying to shill specific coins, there are a lot of people out there. Obviously, everybody's trying to talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. That's nice. But then you have other people doing the same thing for other coins. And I tend to tune those people out. I mean, I listen every now and then because sometimes they have a chunk of news that's a kind of buried pearl in all the cacophony. But I pay attention to, listen, there are certain norms that are just going to happen. Stock market movements, certain things are just going to happen at a regular time. It should not be considered a fake out or a pump and dump. That's not what it was. That's not what it was. So pay attention to how people speak. Remember, sometimes people are looking for the equivalent of clickbait, a headline that will get you to click a link to follow it to see what's going on. Well, the same thing happens in video. Same thing happens all over the place. Pay attention to what's being said and who's saying it all the time. And then take whatever they say with a grain of salt, depending on what you found. And that's what I tend to do. There are a lot of people I listen to, but not because I necessarily give, weight to what they're saying. It's because every now and then, well, what's the real line? 2 times a day, even a broken clock is right. So every now and then you find a pearl. So that's one thing I wanted to touch. Then SEC Chairman Gary Gensler went on record during a Senate committee hearing that the CFTC should be more involved in regulating stablecoins. Okay. Right? It actually does make sense. But it's almost as if he's saying, well, I'll throw you a bone. Leave me alone about this and, you could have that. I don't know. CFTC chairman went out last week, shortly after what Gary Gensler said, and said that his agency should have far more authority and regulatory expanse with regard to crypto in general. Also correct. I believe that would be the right spot for it, right? Most crypto, not all crypto, is commodity based. Just in the easiest sense of the term, there are cryptos out there that really are securities. And I think both agencies should put them to the test and see what the story is. I think that there should be an agency. There are agencies, the FDIC, the OFAC, FinCEN, I believe those are agencies that are looking at how banks use crypto. I would like to know exactly, I have to do a little bit more research. I'm sure it's there. I have to do a little bit more research about how they feel about blockchain technology, crypto technology, right? Because JP Coin is crypto. It's just not public. But they are now in cahoots with Visa to make it cross-border, right? Or Visa, I forget who it is. I have to look back at my videos. You guys need to help me with that. But you look to see how things happen and you say, well, in certain situations, you have different agencies that would, take the lead on regulatory compliance for a given area. And I think that the OFAC, FinCEN, CFTC, SEC, FDIC are each responsible for regulating crypto. And I think that they need to come up with their rules for things that fall within their space. And then together as a group, they need to figure out how things would fall into each one of those buckets. I think that would be the best way to go about it. But that little tete-a-tete with Gary Gensler and the CFTC chairman, I always forget his name. I have to look it up. I did mention it in a video a few days ago, so please go back, take a look at that. I pay attention to that because, it says that they really are trying to start marking their territory. And I think the fight is gonna get louder and louder between the SEC and CFTC. They haven't come to direct blows yet saying this, that, the other, but I can feel that crescendo coming. I feel it in my bones. I mention this because that would clearly be a macro event. What's next on the docket? Brian Armstrong. Everybody's, yapping about how Brian Armstrong is going to sell off 2%. He owns a huge percentage of Coinbase. It stands to reason that he would want to liquidate at least a little bit. He's saying he would like to to invest in other things. Okay, cool. I really don't care what the man does with his money. He earned his money. He's going to use his money. Why is everybody like, oh my God? No, it's not that deep. It's just not that deep. He has to announce what he's going to sell, when he's going to sell it, all things like that, how much he's going to sell. He's supposed to. What we should be paying attention to is, in the United States, is what politicians are buying and selling what and when. We should get notice within 24 to 48 hours of any kind of action that those politicians are taking. Why? Because they are practicing legal insider trading. These are the kinds of things I'm paying attention to. Those rules need to change. Even if there were term limits, which there aren't, even if there are term limits, that's still something that I can go become. Everybody wonders, like, how does a senator, how does a congressperson get into politics broke and then come out a millionaire? There you go. There you go. So these are things I'm paying attention to. Chuck Mounts is the Chief DeFi Officer at S&P Global. Yes, S&P standards. Yes, that's them. And he says, listen, the tokenization of anything that has value in a market will be tokenized, period. And he's right. He's absolutely right. So, think of things like ownership, proof of identity, just things like that. Things that, not proof of identity, but proof that you can do something. So voting rights could be tokenized. Assets could be tokenized. You own, mutual funds, can be tokenized so that they can be leveraged in new ways and other ways. Because most of that money is just sitting there doing nothing. And I keep telling you that BlackRock is doing it. JP Morgan is doing it. Fidelity is doing it. All these big companies are looking to tokenize major amounts of assets, bringing a whole new level of liquidity to the crypto space. It's huge. It's huge. So whether I'm looking at things from a stock perspective or from a crypto perspective, when I look at companies that are doing something like that, I'm looking at, well, what are the companies that are directly doing it? What are the companies that are offshoots from it, right? Meaning pin plays that I can make money on. These are the things that I'm paying attention to. Getting back to Brian Armstrong, I mean, Coinbase is not number one in the world. It used to be way back in the day until Binance ate its lunch. But I don't see that they have been doing a whole bunch of stuff to grow, to blossom, that kind of thing. I see more news about FTX, which is even smaller, than I do about Coinbase. Okay. I just wanted to add that note, that Coinbase has a way to go to start getting back into where they used to be. I mean, I'm looking at Coinbase right now as equivalent to Intel. Intel lost all its lunch to freaking AMD and everybody else. Why? Because they rested on their laurels. For all intents and purposes, that's what they did. But the tokenization of things also changes how exchanges are going to work. Okay? How crypto exchanges would work, how traditional exchanges would work. Binance, FTX, Coinbase, Kraken, blockchain.com, crypto.com, all of the exchanges would eventually change and morph into these kinds of hybrid service providers. Again, I point out that you have crypto exchanges doing, adding more services. I see you, FTX, that would position them to offer those traditional traditional financial services, the same way you see traditional financial services moving over to do crypto stuff. Who can do what for you, how fast, how cheap? All they're doing is positioning themselves to remain as significant middle layers between entities for transactional purposes. That's it. The more direct you can go, the more money you can make, the more money you can save, and the same on the other side for whatever vendor is on the other side. Right, vendor, whatever counterparty is there. This party, that party. They've got to battle over their relevance in that space. Look at the moves by MasterCard, look at the moves by Visa. This is what I'm paying attention to as we look forward, because it's not just all about crypto. It's not just all about stocks. I'm looking at things that would see me be more liquid, but not have my money tied up in a bank who wants to charge me for them using my money, right? They want to charge me for not having enough money in the bank for them to use. I don't agree with that. Go kick rocks. So I'm looking for different ways to remain mostly liquid. So I'm in preparation for other moves, i.e. real estate, whatever it is I want to do, investment in other businesses, things like that. So I have to remain a little bit liquid, right? So that I can make those moves. But do I want that money tied up in a bank that's not doing anything for me? Probably not. And therefore I don't. So these are the things that I research, because these are the things that can impact where I'm going to have my money positioned to make those moves. Okay? So that's how I look at it. One additional note, Christopher J. Waller, as I look at my notes, he is one of the 7 board members of the Federal Reserve. And this one is huge, bigger than what most people would think. He does not see utility in a US CBDC. Let that wash over you for a minute. He's saying he does not see utility in the United States issuing a CBDC. Go do some research on FedNow. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Just go do some research on FedNow, and then come back and tell me what you found. Go do some of that research, because I scratch my head about it all the time. Here's FedNow. Yeah, why would you need a CBDC? Here's crypto. Why would you need a CBDC? Here are certain crypto projects. Why would I need Swift? There are projects out there that are just as secure as Swift. All Swift is the conglomeration of 11,000 banks that have decided to leverage a specific kind of technology to communicate and handle transactions that are cross-border. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that with crypto. You can absolutely do that with crypto. So when I look at all this, I sit back and I go, wow, that's a big statement to make. I don't see a reason for a CBDC. I think there are a lot of people that are saying, yes, we need a CBDC. We need a CBDC. Hold it. Why? And I don't think they've answered that question why, which is why this group over here is saying, you haven't answered my why. So I don't see why. And if I don't see why, I'm not going to waste my time on it. If it's to move, assets quickly cross-border, there are many ways I can do that. Many, many. So when I look at two systems that are talking to each other, like I'm trying to figure out like what day, because wasn't it JP Morgan? I just want to look it up so I can tell you. Yeah, it's Visa and JP Morgan. I was right before, that are getting together to have their systems talk for cross-border transactions. So those are two huge entities. Visa representing tons of banks and JP Morgan being its own international bank. Pay attention. Do your own research. Dive in. Get deep on subject matter that means something to you. Start to understand how money moves. Listen to what people are saying and then pay more attention to what they're doing. Yes, I see you, Jamie Dimon. Yeah, he's the big dog over at JP Morgan. He says one thing, and while the bank, moves, the bank and its subsidiaries move in an opposite direction. Another point that I wanted to touch on, FTX's Sam Bankman-Fried this past week talked about, people should have to, have some kind of training and testing with regard to, mucking around with derivatives. Because as you know, FTX is starting to move in that direction. Remember years ago, you had to do a lot to try to get into college? And it really was an acceptance thing, whereas right now it's a money thing. And I see that as the same thing. It's just a barrier to entry into doing something. And I get it. But that barrier to entry would affect who? It would affect the have-nots, right? So is that education going to be free to be able to do that? Or is it only going to be available to people that have the money to get the training? See the separation again? Anyway, do your own research. Pay attention to what's going on out there and try to have some fun doing it. Right? This is Eddie J on crypto. If you like what I'm doing, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, absolutely hit the notification bell so you know every single time I drop a new video. And don't forget to tell your friends. Have a good one. Bye-bye.